Today, I'm reviewing a tank that very nearly wasn't added to War Thunder. It's the first tank to have an Indian flag in War Thunder. It's the Vijayanta. I know that I'm absolutely butchering that pronunciation, so from here on out, I'm just going to refer to this as the Indian Vickers. To circle back to my original statement, this tank almost wasn't added to the game in the Royale update. Originally, the first Indian tank that was going to be added was supposed to be an Indian T90 that would have found itself near the top of the British tech tree. When that was data mined, the player base had a little bit of a freak out, so Gaijin pulled that out of the files and added the Indian Vickers to the test server instead. So here we are, with an up-tiered Vickers Mk1. The Indian Vickers is a premium rank 5 8.0 battle rating medium tank for the British, costing 8,560 golden eagles, or roughly $56. The Indian Vickers is a copy of the tech tree Vickers Mk1 with the upgraded ammunition found on the Vickers Mk3. Sadly, even though it's the same battle rating as the Mk3, it doesn't get the other improvements found on that tank, like the thicker armor or laser rangefinder. For general gameplay, this tank is the definition of a glass cannon. At 8.0, this is one of the first tanks to have a stabilized cannon and fire heat, which in this tank has 400mm of pen. That's enough to cut through anything that you face off against. On the flip side, the tank basically has no armor. Its upper front plate is only 60mm thick, with an effective thickness only reaching 100mm in ideal conditions. The turret face is just as bad with only 80mm of armor. Anything that sees you will be able to pin you. With no armor, you'd think that the tank would be fast, and it is, by British standards. You'll normally cap out at about 20 to 22 miles per hour on flat ground. Surprisingly, the tank has a pretty normal power to weight ratio of 16. Going back to ammo for a second, there's a pretty big missed opportunity here. Both the Vickers Mk1 and Mk3 use the 105mm L7A1 cannon. The top round on the Mk1 is the L28A1 APDS with up to 350mm of penetration. The Mk3 doesn't get that round. The Mk3 only gets the M728 APDS, which only does up to 265mm of pen. Granted, the Mk3 gets a replacement with the M456 Heat FS shell that has up to 400mm of penetration. Sometimes you don't want to use heat though, so I think that it's a bit of a missed opportunity that the Indian Vickers didn't get both the M456 Heat FS and the L28A1 APDS. For playstyle, I recommend that you play the Indian Vickers as a mid-range sniper. As I said before, you don't get the laser rangefinder from the Mk3, so it's not the best for long-range engagements. The gunner sight only goes up to a 6x zoom, so you'd also have trouble accurately aiming on targets that you'd want to use a laser rangefinder on anyways. You also don't want to get in close to brawl because of the tank's non-existent armor. That's why I think that this tank is kind of pigeonholed into being a mid-range sniper that will perform best when used by somebody that knows the routes to take and the spots to go to for effective flanks on the enemy. So, should you buy the Indian Vickers? Personally, I think that the only people that should buy the tank at full price are people that just have to have the first Indian tank in War Thunder. For everybody else, I'd maybe think about picking it up when it's on sale, but looking at the other options in the British tech tree, I'd almost always rather spend the extra 350 golden eagles and pick up the Khalid instead. When looking at tech tree tanks that I'd have in a lineup, I'd rather just take out the Vickers Mk3 if I wanted to snipe, or I'd run the Conqueror if I wanted to brawl. The only reason why I'd take the Indian Vickers into a match is because of the premium bonuses. If you have any questions about the Vijayanta, leave them in the comments, and a like really helps the video. I hope you all have a great rest of your day.